The courtroom was unusually quiet, not the normal kind of quiet. This was the kind of silence where everybody knew something strange was about to happen. Even the audience sitting in the back seemed locked in. Because today's case wasn't just confusing. It was messy. On one side stood a frustrated landlord in his late 50s, gripping a folder packed with papers and receipts. On the other side sat a young tenant, calm, confident, almost too relaxed for someone being sued. And right in the middle of it all sat Judge Judy, watching, analyzing, already sensing that somebody in this courtroom wasn't telling the full truth. The landlord spoke first. "Your Honor, this tenant disappeared owing me 4 months of rent and damaged the apartment before leaving." The tenant instantly shook his head. "That's not true." Judge Judy looked up immediately. "You've been here 6 seconds and already somebody's lying." A few people in the audience laughed nervously. But the tension stayed heavy. The landlord continued. He explained that the tenant suddenly moved out in the middle of the night. No warning, no final payment. And according to him, apartment was left destroyed, broken cabinets, cracked walls, water damage, even missing appliances. The landlord claimed the repairs cost over $11,000. The audience reacted quietly because now the case sounded serious. But then, tenant leaned forward calmly. "And that changed everything. She's leaving out the important part." Judge Judy narrowed her eyes. "What important part?" The tenant answered instantly. "The apartment already had problems before I moved in." Now the courtroom energy shifted because suddenly this wasn't just about unpaid rent. It was about condition, responsibility, and proof. The tenant claimed the apartment had leaking pipes, mold problems, and electrical issues from the beginning. According to him, he complained multiple times, but nothing was fixed. And then he said something that made the entire courtroom pay attention. "I actually called the city inspector." The landlord's expression changed immediately, a tiny reaction. But Judge Judy noticed it. She always notices it. "You called the city?" "Yes." "And what happened?" The tenant crossed his arms confidently. "They forced her to make repairs." Now the audience was fully invested because this case suddenly had a new layer. If true, it could destroy the landlord's credibility completely. Judge Judy turned toward the landlord. "Did the city inspect the apartment?" The landlord hesitated, just for a second. "But in this courtroom, 1 second is enough." "Yes, but the problems were minor." Judge Judy repeated the word carefully. "Minor." Then she leaned back in her chair, and everybody could tell she was thinking hard. The tenant then pulled out photos on his phone, photos of dark stains on the ceiling, broken pipes under the sink, mold spreading near the windows. The courtroom reacted immediately. Even the audience looked uncomfortable. Judge Judy studied each image carefully, then asked the most important question. "When were these taken?" 2 weeks before I moved out." The landlord quickly interrupted. "He caused that damage himself." Judge Judy snapped back instantly. "You don't interrupt me. If you were smarter, you'd wait." Silence. Absolute silence. The landlord sat back down immediately. But something still didn't add up. Judge Judy could feel it. The tenant looked confident. Too confident. And confidence without evidence is dangerous. So she asked the question nobody expected. "Do you have proof the city inspector actually came?" The tenant smiled slightly. "Yes." Then he handed over paperwork. Official inspection notices, violation reports, repair demands. Now even the landlord looked nervous. The judge flipped through the pages slowly, and suddenly she stopped. One sentence caught her attention. The violation report mentioned emergency plumbing repairs, completed by a contractor. Judge Judy looked up sharply. "Who completed these repairs?" The landlord answered quickly. "My maintenance guy." "What's his name?" The landlord gave the name. Then something unexpected happened. Judge Judy picked up the phone. The courtroom froze because everyone realized she was about to verify the story herself. Even the audience leaned forward. The landlord suddenly looked pale. The tenant stopped smiling. And for the first time all day, both sides looked nervous. Judge Judy dialed the number listed on the paperwork. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then someone answered. The courtroom became dead silent. Judge Judy introduced herself calmly. "This is Judge Judy. I need to ask you a question." The audience looked stunned. The landlord stared at the floor. The tenant held his breath, and then the judge asked the question that changed the entire case. "Did you repair severe water damage in this apartment?" A pause. Then the answer came, "Yes." Judge Judy's eyes narrowed instantly. "How severe?" Another pause. Then the contractor replied, "Honestly, pretty bad. The pipes had probably been leaking for months." Boom, the entire courtroom reacted. You could actually hear people whispering, because in one phone call, whole case flipped upside down. Judge Judy continued. "Did the tenant cause the damage? No." Another explosion of whispers in the audience. The landlord's face completely collapsed, because now his story was falling apart in real time. Judge Judy thanked the contractor and hung up slowly. Then she turned toward the landlord, and the look on her face said everything. "You sued this man, knowing these problems already existed." The landlord tried to defend himself, but he still owed rent. Judge Judy fired back immediately. "And you still owed him a safe apartment." Silence. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The judge continued, breaking everything down piece by piece. The violations were real. The plumbing damage was old. The repair reports confirmed it. And worst of all, landlord tried hiding it. That was the real problem. Not the damage, the dishonesty. Judge Judy leaned forward one final time. "The fastest way to lose credibility in my courtroom is making me work to find the truth." The audience went completely silent, because everybody knew what was coming next. The verdict. Judge Judy looked directly at the landlord. "I find in favor of the defendant." The tenant closed his eyes in relief, but the judge wasn't finished. "Not only do you lose this case, but I suggest you stop renting apartments until you learn basic responsibility." The audience reacted instantly, some shocked, some satisfied. But everyone understood the lesson, because this case was never really about rent. It was about accountability, about truth, and about one mistake people always make in court. Thinking confidence matters more than evidence. But in the end, one phone call exposed everything.